rocket red glare reppin' USA, so she go crazy. Mom's bursting in there with the rocket red glare reppin' USA, so she go crazy. Wait for it, 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 wait for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here at Latino Free Minds. It is prime time. I am Gio, and this is my co-host Christian. Christian, how you doing?
How's it going, Joe? Doing good, doing good. Excited about today.
I'm excited about today too. We have a very special guest joining us today, and she comes from the Fresno County and City Republican Women's Federated, often called the Fresno Republican Women. It's a local political organization made up of women active in Republican politics here in the Central Valley. They're part of a much bigger network that connects to the California Federation of Republican Women and the National Federation of Republican Women, one of the largest grassroots political organizations in the country, focused on electing Republican candidates and promoting conservative policies. As the nation approaches its 250th anniversary, we are speaking with Gloria F. Vasquez Ward, the organization's legislation chair, about these 250 years. Gloria, welcome.
Gloria.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. What a very
Uh,
good
We,
and
we,
kind introduction.
we really appreciate you joining us today on Latino Free Minds. I would love to know more about you, Gloria. And before we talk about the Fresno County and City Republican Women Federated, I want to know about Gloria. Can you tell us about yourself?
I can tell you a little bit about myself. Um, I just very briefly um, uh, born and raised in Southern California, a little tiny um, city of Colton, and I was raised there with my family. Um, I have six brothers and two sisters. And my grandparents were born and raised in Mexico. Although my father was born here in the States, my mother being from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So they came together at very young teenage years, went on to have eight children, and we lived in our little community for moving around here and there. And these eight little Mexican kids did very well in school. They were musicians and they were good students, and we all tried our best uh, in our own bubble of a family and our own little world. And so, my just briefly again, my own personal background is I'm a registered nurse by career and also a nurse practitioner and worked in many, many, many different settings and facilities. Learned a lot along the way and ended my nursing career, although my license is still active. I ended my nursing career just barely last year because registered nurses are always in demand.
Yep.
So, along the way, also, I was introduced to a Republican point of view in college. And that's when I believe I began to take notice of what politics meant. And I didn't do very well in political science. However, I still paid attention to what was going on that at that time, what it meant. And for us in college, it was the Vietnam War.
Oh,
So, four members from our family were drafted and sent. They all came
no.
back. but they served, and the that is an eye opener as far as history is concerned. And it was a just a very, very trying time for the families with the soldiers in going and coming in Vietnam. And so
Was
we moved into
was that
the
an
San
was that
Joaquin
an
Valley,
influence?
Fresno, and little by little I began to pay more attention to the Republican politics
Hmm.
and always found it very interesting. When you're raising a family, you don't have a ton of time to pay attention to every little detail, but enough to know what is going on. And I think that's what women, let's just stay with women for a bit,
Hmm.
women can do is they can't do everything at young ages when they have families and raising children, but they can pay attention. They can
Yes.
learn and then incorporate that in how their own belief system is, and it's evolving uh, all the time.
So you had mentioned that your brothers went to the Vietnam War. Did that help influence your interest in the Republican Party?
It did, it did. But what also I think helped shape that was the polarization of um, what a war is,
Hmm.
what it does to families, and then the cause of keeping our country free. And then you start to learn about other things, communism, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, um, and the lives that are impacted by those type of policies. So many times you're torn about your Republican Party beliefs and then what you actually see happening. And so people have to decide for themselves, how they're going to handle that. It's I'll just use the word interesting. It's very interesting, but I think it's also necessary when people pay attention
Yeah,
to the world around them.
absolutely.
Well, Gloria, it's I like you said, you found leaning more Republican in college. How do you feel that nowadays it's the the opposite? You know, you get pushed more to those woke ideologies. What do you think that is?
So when you're old school, um, like I am, you're going to go automatically back to the old school. It can't be helped. That's just how we're programmed during the generations as
Yeah,
the decades go by. It's just
Gloria,
going to be that way.
Gloria,
Yes.
just I'm because when you um, started learning about the Republican Party, you were new school.
Yes.
So, so I think that's what Christian's getting at is like how is it
Ah,
like what are your thoughts that you when you were new school you the conservative values appealed to you and some others in your, many others in your generation versus now it's the opposite, very liberal. um that's the popular side of it now.
yes. And I'm glad you brought that up because then I think you start to point back to, so where did these conservative ideas come from?
Hmm.
Um, I believe it was my parents. My mother was very, very conservative, and she also would pay attention to politics because I used to hear her and her family speak about different aspects of politics. Now, JFK, of course, was very beloved by so many families, and I remember them talking about him. However, um, as I grew, those were, like democratic views. But as time went on and you start to shape your own thinking, um, you stick sort of towards what you were shaped with,
Right.
what you were sort of nurtured with. Now, I'm not, in those days, probably parents didn't talk to you some did, but about something like politics, Republican, Democrat. But you start to glean from your parents what their thought process is, and you can't help but bring that to yourself. Now, going back to being in college, and you sort of keep those values, conservative values,
Yeah.
and you can go off one way or another. You can become other. However, many people, old school, they keep what they were what they were brought up with, what they
Mm-hmm.
remember hearing, what they sort of started to decipher for themselves, their own right and wrong. And but conservative core values for many families, for many Republican women, are solid. They're solid,
Yeah.
and they pass that on to their, you know, children, and then they become adult children, and then the grandchildren, etc. And then anybody that joins the family, and that's where a lot of contention, is because then people don't believe the same, of course.
Right.
Did I answer that the way you asked me?
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I agree with you, and I know that a lot of folks, at least like my generation, um, I grew up in a very liberal time, not as liberal as it is now, but the foundation of my parents' generation raising us in church, instilling in us the values that they learned in Mexico and transitioning here to the United States in the 70s and 80s, picking up all of those conservative values as they assimilated here in the United States. Those same values were instilled in me as a foundation. So even though for a little bit of time I found myself I thinking that I was a Democrat liberal, um, it was very easy for me to realize with all of the indoctrination and the um, just the funny business happening. Just to keep it short, right? With all the funny business happening, when I have my own children, when I had my older son, I quickly shifted away from that towards back to my foundation that my
Mm-hmm.
parents raised me with. I don't want to make it seem like I didn't have that era in my life, but the foundation, like you said, the old school foundation
Hard
was there.
work.
That seed was already planted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. So, what I like to remember is how individual we are.
Hmm.
So, in a group or a family, the little phrase I like to use just for myself is the collective thinking and then the individual thinking.
Right.
Because, if there's a holiday or something, the family collectively wants to celebrate Christmas and they do that. But individually, the person starts to think, well, maybe I will, won't do that such as, that type of celebration in my home. And I think that's the beauty of our uniqueness.
Yeah.
We are, yes, it is, because it tells us like your the title of your podcast, free minds, and that's what we hold on to.
Yeah.
That's what when you look back at the Vietnam War, it was to keep communism from spreading.
You know
Why? Because
you
we
you
want to be free.
you bring up an
People
interesting
want
point, Gloria.
freedom at all costs.
Yeah. You bring up such an interesting point when you talk about the Vietnam War. This just came to mind. You grew up in an era where a lot of these countries were trying communism and socialism, and they were all failing. And now, we don't pay as much attention to that because we're so uh, just involved in ourselves here in the United States. Even even locally, kids don't really care about
Yes.
what's going on outside of TikTok. So
Right.
we don't see those failures that you got to see. The war in Vietnam, the communism, how it affected um, their country, and Korea before that, and
Yes.
Russia after that. You got to see all of that. We didn't. My generation, the wars that we dealt with were very different. So I almost wonder if seeing the failures of those left leaning politics has been the difference for your generation versus ours.
Yes. So the little phrase, another little phrase I like to use is you can you can hear about the 60s, but we lived the 60s. We were
Yeah.
right in
Hmm.
college during the 60s when all free love and all that stuff was all over the place. It was a reckoning, especially if you were a conservative. So, college types, I was in college at that time. Um, I mean, that was alive and well. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Um, all the protesting that went on during the Vietnam War, that was up close and personal. And so we lived that and we can tell it as part of history. It's not something you can change. We know that happened.
Yeah.
It was exactly like we people my age really remember it. We lived Ronald Reagan. We knew about him being governor twice and then him running for president one time and then didn't make it. Then he ran again and he made it. And people would just say, oh, he's an actor. How could he be president? But look what he did for the country. I remember under Ronald Reagan when the unemployment rate was 2.2%. And you could not find people to work because everybody was working. And so, that's what we in our um, type of thinking through the decades, we still want that.
Exactly.
But that's not for me anymore. It's not about me and our generation so much anymore. It's about um, you,
It is.
your family, my children, my grandchildren. That's where it's going to end up. So that's why our um, our thinking of conservatism, Republican women, keeping it live and well is very important.
So Gloria, you mentioned, you bring up generations, and nowadays we have Twitter, we have this podcast thing that we're doing over here. There's different ways to get news nowadays. What were some like sources? How would you receive news? Aside from the TV, and what were some kind of outlets you had, or non-biased or bias leaning, or is it kind of the same it is, as it is today?
I don't know that I remember totally. The majority of it was probably television. And so it brings to mind when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon in July of 1969, and they televised it. And that was just such a historic, wonderful thing to watch. And so that was really the only way that we could
Mm.
see part of what was going on around us. But the college campuses were, that was another way where you'd hear lots of people talking about this, talking about that, professors talking about it a little bit. Um, um, so I really, Christian, I don't really recall any other way, radio or television, and then word of mouth.
Mm.
But people were really speaking up, of course, because we see, what happened with the demonstrations in Chicago during the Democratic National Convention. I mean, that was a massive protest, and we witnessed it.
Tell us about it.
Well, um, being conservative, I really didn't think that that was the way to approach something you didn't agree with.
Oh,
Now,
right.
other people who were protesting, that's the only way they thought about it. And it did gain traction with the protesting because what happened later was that, when LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, he was just really had a horrible time trying to justify that war with all the massive protesting going on everywhere in the United States. So that was I would say a form of communication. I was never a part of that because I was a conservative,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people were not conservative. That, they just thought that that whole um, the Vietnam War was unnecessary, just terribly, just a mess.
So,
And go ahead.
Gloria,
Yes,
Gloria,
thank you.
you're bringing up these events, and I think back to when I said, you got to grow up and see these failures from communist policies, socialist policies, Democrat policies, and we didn't, right? My generation didn't. Christian's younger than I am. His generation hasn't. Um, and it reminds me back to last month. I took the family to New York City, and we went to the 9/11 museum. And as we were there were grown men crying. It hit me really hard. Everything. It was just like a rush of emotion. And when we got back to the hotel, my wife and I were in the room talking, and I was like, "Do you think that the kids see it the same way that we do?" And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, because we watched it, we seen it happen. So when we walked in there, it came slow. It was when we saw all the like when I saw all the pictures, it just like I just wanted to almost break down, like just all those memories from when I was 13 or 14 years old. All those memories just came flooding back. And like I said, you got to live that. And when you mentioned the Neil Armstrong walking on the moon, I see I started to think about when I asked my wife that, and I thought back to when I was a kid, and that, the emotion that you bring up, or my parents bring up when they talk about Neil Armstrong walking on the moon. I just saw it as, yeah, we see that all the, we see the space shuttles going up into space all the time. Why is this such a big deal? Why is this
Almost
so
question
impressive?
it sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes, yeah,
We're so detached. We're so
Right.
detached from that.
Detached.
Yeah,
well, I wouldn't say you're detached. I would just say it needs to be discussed.
it does. And
You know, we
the older
Yeah,
that I
we
get,
need to do our part
yeah,
as old school
hmm,
to continue to bring that to light for younger generations.
yeah, exactly.
And nowadays you can do it all kinds of ways because of all the technology.
Hmm.
Um, but an awareness of what happened decades ago, and you might say what happened decades ago, what's happening now. Yes, people my age just, it's mind blowing when we see what's happening now. However, when you go back to the core value of conservatism,
Yeah,
maybe something came through, like I mentioned, from my mother, and then it came from other people I associated with in college, and then it grew in my family. You keep that. So whatever's going around you, you can hold on to that. The values that you hold true for you and your family. What I learned
right.
growing older is that you're always going to have the pushback. That's you and opposition. You're just going to have it. Just expect it every day. It's coming.
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean that we can't share our knowledge of what being a Republican, what being conservative, what that means to us. We're not
Exactly.
shut out. We're not going to be shut out. That's for
Mm.
sure. We're going to spread our values and we're going to keep them close, but also be mindful that, like you were saying, some people just don't know. I mean, they don't know. And I spoke to a young woman just recently, and I said, mentioned something just kind of benign in the news, and she said, "I don't listen. I don't know anything."
Wow.
And I just said, "Well, if you ever have any questions," I mean, I just sort of talked to her a little bit, but that is what um, needs to be shared. I,
Yeah.
I think that's a good word. We're just going to share this information with younger types,
Yeah.
and you're the younger types.
First-hand accounts.
And I'm sorry, repeat that.
Oh no, I was just saying, just it's a first-hand account. You know.
Yes, yes, exactly. From what we witnessed, and I'll
Exactly.
let you know, we witnessed a lot of things, lots and lots of things,
So
lots of
so
lives that we've crossed, and um, not bad though. We're not saying it's bad. The
mhm,
United States, what we stand for, freedom, liberty, it's most wonderful,
right.
and that's very challenging for us because we see what this country has done for us, what it gives us, how we are now, the freedom that we have, the freedom to be here talking, the freedom to, you know, part, go to your own church, the freedom to get in your car and go wherever you like, 7-Eleven or Johnny Quick. I mean, that's freedom. I've traveled in different countries. I've seen people that are not so free.
Mhm.
And what do they want? They want to come here
They do.
because it's what they're after. It's what we represent, and it's good. It's
Yes.
not bad. It's
And
very, very good.
and these values that they want to partake in. That these conservative values that we have, that when you think of the American dream, you think about you think about a family and a home, uh, husband at work, wife, um, being able to go to work or take care of the family, or vice versa. These values are something that you want to uphold. And now today, you are part of an organization where you are the legislation chair. And I'd love to learn more about the organization and what they're doing over at the Fresno County and City Republican Women Federated.
Yes. And so, like all organizations, this organization began um, 1937, 1938. So, right away, you can say that decades ago, women were really wanting to be represented through the Republican Party on their own. So, these women were very, very smart. They knew how to come together, they knew how to share,
Right.
and they promoted their organization. One group started, and now it's, of course, through decades all over the country. Our organization in Fresno, we welcome women. We have like associate members. Lots of men come and support us as well, and we really welcome them into our organization. We have, of course, our legislative committee. We have a Ways and Means committee. We have veterans. We have to uphold and promote and honor veterans. Of course, we have, uh, people who run um, membership. We have all those components of these clubs. We call them clubs, and the women are diligent.
Yes.
We take what we do seriously. It's it's a club. Sometimes we call it, like, we have events. We call them parties. They're very fun. They're very warm, welcoming, and educational. Our speakers at the events are awesome. Our last event, we hosted um, Kyle Kirkland and Lorenzo Rios. So we have people with knowledge to share throughout our club, and we really welcome people to come and be part of that organization. Listen and learn, because that's what it really is continually. I mean, what we're doing is that. You're always listening, observing, learning, and then you share. Because what you're doing is trying to promote what this country really means. For me, yes. But my children, yes. Young people like you, yes. But who's right behind them?
Right.
The grandchildren. So that's what our cause, our purpose, our determination is, to promote our organizations, Republican, and let people know that we're very friendly, and we want to acknowledge what we know with you.
It's true. Organizations like the Fresno County and City Republican Women Federated, you go to you go to their events and everybody greets you. You get surrounded. Everybody wants to know more about you. Who are you? Where'd you find out about us? You're. I want to say you're treated like royalty. So if you have an opportunity, I mean, your organization is here in Fresno, but the grander, right? So all over California, all over the nation,
Hmm.
one of the
Yes.
largest grassroots
Hmm.
organizations in the nation. So
Yes.
if it sounds appealing, or if you just have a speck of interest, I highly recommend you go. And um, a lot of these events, there's food, so that's something.
Yes. We always have lunch. Yeah. And coffee. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So it's a great opportunity to go grab lunch, sit down, and you learn a lot of things. Um, you almost always have somebody speaking. You learn history. You learn what's going on right now. It's all so relevant. So, if you
Yes.
have interest, we, here in the Valley, go to the Fresno Republican Women's, or if you're not nearby, find hey, reach out to Latino Free Minds, and we'll help you find one.
Yeah. A chapter.
Yeah. So how did you start? How did you come across the organization?
Well, myself, it was that, no, well, I mean, it was some time ago,
Hmm.
and I found probably a three-line in the olden days when we had newspapers, three lines in a little section of the newspaper, Republican Women Organization Welcome, with a phone number. And I just glanced at this paper, looked at it, and I cut it out, saved it for a long time, then finally called, and then did go and meet women who were like-minded, very smart, these women. I'm telling you, I know a lot about politics. And they were exactly what you said. Um, Come and join us, be part of the group,
Yep.
help
Hmm.
us. And from that event, here and there, I could help only time to time. George Bush was coming um, to the Valley, and they asked my husband and I to go and make signs. And so we did. And then we actually scored some tickets to go see him. And so it was at the airport, oh, I think near where Amazon is now. And we got in and we got to see President George Bush. Just, maybe kind of a random way, but it was so fabulous to be a part of that. Just from doing a little bit here and there, it turned
Yeah.
out to be a huge thing. Uh, we were just very, very grateful for that just a tiny little window of opportunity. That's how I started. But now with technology, gosh, people have all kinds of ways to find things out. So
I'm
um,
I have to ask Gloria, was it George Bush Senior or Junior?
the junior, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
The
I
best one.
there was two. The
The
best
best
one.
one.
yeah.
I was born under George Bush Senior, so I'm biased. I'm just kidding.
Oh yes, yes.
I'm only kidding. um, so the Fresno County and City Republican Women Federated, you have an event coming up.
Oh.
Yes, yes. So we want to invite all of you that are listening, and Christian and Giovanni, and we're celebrating the big celebration for 250 years for our country. And our event will be on May 22nd at Pardini's. That's located at Van Ness and Shaw. And it's already just really getting very, very big. And the two key uh, um, people that will be there, Steve Hilton, as you know, a candidate for governor, and then, of course, Chad Bianco, who's from Riverside, I believe.
Hmm.
Riverside, sorry. And they will be together on stage and they will be discussing their candidacy. And our wonderful Senator Shannon Grove will be the moderator. This is a big event. We also have dignitaries, Margaret Mims, Lisa Smitkamp, David Tangapa will be there. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful time to mix. So, what I love about these events, you get to see these very well known politicians up close and personal. They talk to you. You can go up, ask them questions, get pictures taken with them, enjoy the camaraderie of
Yeah.
the event. It's going to be lots of fun. The food is going to be delicious. There's going to be a lot of people there. And we want everyone who can come to come. The tickets will go on sale first part of April, just about a week or so. We are selling at this time the sponsored tables that you buy, one table per sponsor, and those you can find all of this information on our website. So we really encourage people to put this on your calendar. We really look forward to making it a great, great event. And we are welcoming all of you that are listening, that hear about it. Please contact us, find a way, and buy a ticket so you can see what we're talking about.
Yes.
So lots of times, what you hear people talking about is just words, or it's just a picture, or just hearsay. These events are really fun because, like I mentioned, the candidates are right there. And we really want to promote them, our candidates. We want to back them up 100%.
Hmm.
The Republican candidates, that's what we're after um, in the Democratic state of California.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. And I suggest anybody that has some interest, you said the tickets go on sale next week?
I believe it's April 1st they'll start going on sale. Yes,
You better grab them up. You better go get them.
Chance of selling out.
And if you've got a
yeah,
group, sponsorship is not a bad idea. You get a table, right? For sponsorship?
yes, sir. Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
We've
if you've got
already
a
had
you got a group of friends,
people
really consider that.
contacting us from Los Angeles about this event. So
Wow.
the word is already getting out there.
Yeah, and Senator Shannon Grove, she is a firecracker, so be ready. Get your tickets.
She's awesome. She's an
She is
awesome
she is awesome.
individual. She's an awesome woman. She's brilliant, smart, just really, and she's nice. She's a
She is
nice
nice.
person too.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, she talks to you. Yeah.
She's
Hmm.
she's in Bakersfield, right?
Yes, her base is in Bakersfield, I believe, but she has an office here,
Hmm.
right on Shaw. Hmm.
So this is the 250-year celebration, right? And
Yes.
you have some special things you want to talk about these special 250 years, right?
Yes. So when you, just briefly, when you think about celebration,
Hmm.
it's an anniversary, it's a birthday,
It
it's
is a birthday.
you know, a college graduation. People celebrate. Now, let's celebrate this country. I've probably lived kind of a long time now, and I celebrate the country as an individual because
Hmm.
what it has done for me.
Right.
Have I done some of it myself? Yeah, well, maybe so. But how did I get the opportunity? Because people have the opportunity to achieve, accomplish, climb the ladder
Yeah.
in this. You're not told that you have to, you know, you have to go to be a teacher unless you want that. You don't have to be told you become a registered nurse. You
Right.
get to choose. And so that's the kind of freedom and the I think you could say the beauty of what our country is, what it's done. Amidst the controversies that we have, and you could say from, let's just say from the time where I began to notice things,
Hmm.
we had so many problems, the civil rights movement. We know about that. The
Yeah.
country survived, and then we had, let's go back to Vietnam when all the people from Southeast Asia came to our country, what they had to do to get here. I wish people could know that. And they're here and they are with us and they're Americans. They love it here because we are what they wanted.
Yeah.
Freedom, education, healthcare. They have it here.
Yeah.
And I think when you celebrate it from when we started. Um, I like to think about the pilgrims,
Hmm.
at Thanksgiving. So we celebrate Thanksgiving, and all the children learn about the pilgrims at Thanksgiving and all of that. That
Right.
is real. That's not a made up story. My husband and I traveled to that area. And the pilgrims came and landed. They lost half of the people through the winter that came with them. That's not a myth. Nobody made that up. It really did happen. Um, and then, you might go on to say, this, what I really love to read about is the Lewis and Clark expedition. The Lewis and Clark expedition came because Thomas Jefferson wanted to do what? Explore.
Yes.
He wanted to know what was on the west side of the Mississippi. So he took these two great guys, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, sent them. One was actually like an explorer type guy. The other one was more intellectual.
Hmm.
And they went and they explored west of the Mississippi and all the hardships they went. We just read about the people they took with them. You know, their woman Indian guide who had a baby on the way, a
Really?
Frenchman. Yes, she had a baby on the way, and a Frenchman. And then all of the rough and tough frontiersmen who paved the way to make this country big. Who thought of that? I'm not sure if it was Thomas Jefferson. It might have been.
Hmm.
So people, when they think of, let's say, this president, and they want to focus on what maybe his own personal life was. Okay, You can do that, but look at what happened. Those
Right.
men, Lewis and Clark expedition, they made it to Oregon, and their landing site is Astoria, Oregon. And then they had another rough time there. They couldn't come back because the snow was so bad, and had to wait a long, long time. That's what they did for who? I think they kind of did it for us. This is our country. All the states, all the cities, all the towns where people are doing so many things that have to do with our freedom. That's what we celebrate. So that is just one example of how our country came together. And I think that can reflect back on what you were saying about the 9/11. It's history of the United States, and the tragedies that happened within our country.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could say that you can say they were tragedies, and they are still tragedies as we speak in many places in our country. However, I believe the people of the United States really cling on to what's basic in our lives. And of course, for conservatives, that's our religion, and then it's our families, and it's our loved ones. And then, maybe it's something more that they have a cause or a purpose, something they are, if they're connected to a health organization to for funding, like for children with cerebral palsy, or um, you know, uh, Stand Up for Cancer organizations. I mean, there's many, 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 and that's, I think, how the American people promote their own country
Mm-hmm.
through themselves, through their families, and through the cause that they're um, really dedicated to.
This is a beautiful country. And earlier we were talking about the opportunities that we get in this country, that some of us sometimes take for granted, that we can do pretty much anything we want to become. We can achieve it with determination and effort. Nobody will hand us things. Well, I guess some things are handed out, but
Not expecting. We're not. Yeah.
right, the welfare situation has gotten a little bit out of control. But if you have the determination to become the things that you want to become, you can achieve those things. So that's one of the biggest reasons that I love this country, and I understand the change that my grandparents and parents made in moving to this country to get these opportunities, to having to start out working in the fields or in restaurants, working laborious jobs, um, house cleaning, all of the things that they started with moving here, and then improving their lives. Those opportunities, they're very far, few, and in between in other countries. Not like here. If you want to become a nurse, you can go study to be a nurse. Yes, it's going to cost you, but if you have the determination and the grit, you can make it happen. Nobody's telling you no. It's like you said earlier, there's such a shortage for nurses. If you wanted to become that, you can do it in this beautiful country.
I think that's true. And like we were saying at the beginning, on a daily basis, people do face that pushback, opposition.
Mm-hmm.
They say challenges now.
Yeah.
In the older days, we used to say just it's really hard, but now there's all kinds of words for that. So people are challenged. That's to be expected in how people live. I think just overall, um, you may have an illness that keeps you from achieving this or that,
Yeah.
or
Right.
those obstacles, they're real and they're there.
Mm-hmm.
However, you still see people that are so accomplished in
Yeah.
those settings, achieving great things for themselves, maybe
Yeah.
not even for their country, but for themselves.
Yeah.
They have a special, um, the special dogs that help them
Mm-hmm.
move around. They have special wheelchairs, or they
Yeah.
have another person accompany them to their jobs or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of really wonderful, neat things that people can access, and that's because of the I would say the involvement of our country, the technology, people who are inventive, the geniuses who invent things, and you see them every day on TV. You say, how do people invent these things for the betterment of, maybe it is themselves, but the people on the around them will
Mm-hmm.
benefit from that, and that's freedom. They're able to do that. You could go to school if you want to go to school. Yes, you might have to ride the bus. In the older days, we had to ride the bus, then
Mm-hmm.
get a transfer, then go to the school, then come home, get a transfer, go
Yeah.
home. And maybe there's not much for you at home, but the opportunity, I believe the opportunity is still there. And you can say, well, no, maybe I don't want to go to college. Well, yeah, you'll have to go to college. Maybe you want to be somebody in the military and serve your country. Maybe you want to do something along you know technology nowadays. I mean, it's just amazing how many people, how many opportunities are in technology. And so these types of, let's just say, achievements or occupations, they're available.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think, like you said, when there's a will, there's a way. There's a you gotta catch the bus. You're gonna have to catch the bus. That's the only way right now. You'll get better. You'll come back next. Maybe you have a car for next semester. But you gotta work your way up to it. Nothing is given, and if it is, cool, but it's not expected, right? It is something, and I think if you have that type of moral foundation, it does go a long way, especially when you're in a pickle. It goes back to discipline, right? Am I gonna have the will to stick this out, or am I just gonna, maybe this doesn't work out for me, but I'm not gonna give up here. I gotta find something to do. I can't be relying on the government cheese, or something like that.
Exactly. Exactly. And this really is the most beautiful, the most uh, um, generous country in the world, and it all really started 250 years ago when
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence, and it was signed by those 56 delegates on July 4th, 1776, and that's what we're going to be celebrating all year. That's what.
Yes, yes. And again, when you go back to celebration, I
Mhm.
think it's, you know, I think we need to give ourselves permission to do that. I
Mhm.
am very, very thankful for, for let's say, the here and now,
Yes.
and being able to, uh, even just still be able to communicate with people, and see the sun come up every morning, and
Mm-hmm.
see the sky, how beautiful it is, and clouds, and to have a home where you go in, and that's your home and you stay there. The home doesn't have to be big or fancy. It can be one room. If that's your home, you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we can't always measure successes on those types of material things. I don't think so. It does play a part, no
Yes.
denying that. Um, as you know, the saying is, people want better for their children. And so I heard a story
many decades ago from a really wonderful woman. And we were raising our kids together, and we were talking about the farm workers. And we might have said something like, like, oh gosh, I said, I don't think I have never worked in the fields before. And she said, oh, yes, I have with my parents. And this is what she told me. She said, kids don't really mind if they're working in a camp or something, as long
Hmm.
as the parents are together.
Right.
And I thought, and she said, they may be living in a car. So she was telling me what she had seen, and they travel from place to place. She said, they're kind of like a happy family. Now, is that sort of an exaggeration? That's what her, maybe, I'm not sure. But she lived it, she saw it, she told me about that. Now, if people are able to do jobs like that, then they have the opportunity to do that. And so I don't really want to compare people working in a field with somebody who's a CEO. To me, the people are the same. They're exactly the same.
Hmm.
They have different occupations, but it doesn't
Yeah.
change the caliber of the person. The
Exactly.
person is still wonderful, valuable, needed, cherished,
Yes.
lovely. The
Hmm.
people are still that as individuals. And that's, I think, very how I would hope people would look at each other.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, Gloria, we appreciate you coming on today to Latino Free Minds. Um,
I
just
hope to
to,
have you back another
yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah. There you go. So, just to remind folks, we do have on Friday, May 22nd, 2026, we will have the celebration America 250 with Steve Hilton, Sheriff Chad Bianco, who are both running for governor here in California, and Senator Shannon Grove, who will be moderating the event. Um, if I mentioned it earlier, if you are interested, highly recommend you go in and get those tickets as early as possible. Gloria mentioned that a lot of the tables are already moving fast. People as far as Los Angeles are wanting to come to this event. So if you're here in Fresno, here in the Valley, or maybe even further out, some of our listeners throughout California, um, if you are interested, reach out because we'll be there. Latino Free Minds will be there. Steve Hilton, Sheriff Chad Bianco, and Senator Shannon Grove. It's and you mentioned earlier David Tongipa and others too that are all fighting hard for this state. So it's going to be an incredible event, and I really look forward to seeing everybody there. Yeah. Gloria, before we end, um, how can folks get a hold of your organization?
Thank you. I'm going to direct them to log on to um, Fresno Republican Women.org. And if you can make sure Fresno Republican Women.org, and that will take you to our website, and the events are listed there. Also on Facebook, you can do that. Um, so we just really want you to try to get a hold of us in different ways. A lot of it is going to be word of mouth,
Mm-hmm.
because we're sharing a lot of this information with a lot of different people and other organizations. And so I would just really hope that you'll be able to contact us and be part of this great event, but also the celebration. I like to keep that in mind. We're celebrating our country,
Yes.
and we and us, because as citizens, we're part of the country.
Yeah. Yeah, we
We're
are.
not separate. we're together. And so we would want you to come and have a really great time and meet us and talk to us and give us your views on whatever you want to talk about with any of us. We're very open and aware that there are different points of views, and that is another part of the beauty of the country. You can state your different point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gloria. And if you enjoyed listening to Gloria today, she will be back for another episode of Latino Free Minds. She will be coming on with Daniel and Danny. So look forward to that, bringing some more information to us. It was very insightful, Gloria, and to be able to hear a perspective of a previous generation, because we often bring in folks. A lot of them are younger, and we're all in this fight in California against the woke and liberal Democrats here, but you brought such a refreshing perspective of when we were a conservative state, when Ronald Reagan was the governor. So thank you so much. And we look forward to bringing you on again. Before we end it, we always end with a prayer. Would
Thank you.
you be comfortable closing us out in prayer?
I I just want to actually just kind of end the where I started. It's just an honor and a privilege to be with you two wonderful gentlemen,
Mm-hmm.
with your kind words and patience, and I really appreciate this moment. And I thank everyone that was listening. Also, it's very kind of you to take the time to do that. And I will leave the prayers up to you.
Okay, I'll lead it. Christian, is that
Thank
okay
you.
if I lead us
Absolutely.
out?
Go for it,
All
brother.
right. Sorry. Heavenly Father, we come before your throne. We thank you, Lord, for this day. We thank you for the blessing of being able to join today, this Tuesday, to share this moment with Gloria, to be able to learn about our country, learn about our history, the blessings that you've bestowed on this nation, from Lewis and Clark to Thomas Jefferson, even through Gloria's lifetime, through the Vietnam War, through Ronald Reagan. Such a beautiful history in this nation that you've been able to provide to us, and just show us that we are a chosen nation and a blessed nation. We appreciate you, Lord, for that. And we also ask you to continue to protect us, to watch over us, to lead our leaders, to guide them in keeping us safe, and also being able to bring prosperity to our citizens. In Jesus' name we pray. We thank you so much. Amen.